speaking of bad vibes, the Patriots, their home opener, coming off a surprise win against Cincinnati. And I think this was a game that before the season started, before I even saw the results against Cincinnati, I said, this is a game that I'm picking them to win. I think that, I said they were going to be 5-12, and this was a game I thought they were going to win. They had opportunities to win. And one of the things that jumped out to me about this game, Will, is they got outcoached. And that was such a key checkmark in their favor in week one. They were disciplined. They played smart football. They didn't lose the game. They let the Bengals do that. Well, in this game, the 56-yard touchdown to DK Metcalf was a check that the Patriots defense made after Seattle made a check at the line of scrimmage. Max pressure. They're thinking the ball is going to come out quick. Christian Gonzalez sits down. Kyle Duggar doesn't go with DK Metcalf, and DK Metcalf is 10 yards behind the secondary. That's a touchdown. That's a huge play, and that was, again, a coaching point for them, reaction to what they were seeing from Seattle, and they got burned by it. A blitz again in overtime, 3rd and 6. Like, hey, just bow up here, force an incompletion, and make Seattle make a decision. Go for it, around midfield, or punt it and, try to stick us down inside the 10 and see what happens. They blitz again. Gino backs away from the pressure, finds Charbonnet in the flat. Christian Gonzalez, instead of trying to physically run through Charbonnet, which he's probably not going to win that battle, but at that moment, close to the sticks, that's what you got to do. He goes low. Charbonnet gets the extra yard. That's a first down. I thought, by and large, they just could not fool Gino. In fact, you want to know a reaction? Gino looked like a top 10 quarterback in that game. I charted 2 bad throws / decisions of the 44 throws that he made in that game. Like, that's elite stuff. Patriots still can't get their wide receivers involved. And while they threw the ball a lot more in the first half, they ended up with 3 catches on 6 targets to their wide receivers for 19 yards. That is on Alex Van Pelt and that offense. And look, there's offensive line issues that I detailed again. I had them down for 15 pressures on 33 dropbacks, which is, again, an absurd number. Last week I had them at 48%. That, I believe, is 45%. That's not sustainable. You could tell as the second half went on, Jacoby Brissett went from looking down the field to looking at the rush. He still bailed them out a bunch of times, either not taking the sack by, sort of scrambling and throwing the ball away, or even in a couple cases making plays off the scramble. But that's not his game, and that's what they're forced him to do. And then I'll give you another one. Really bad clock management before the end of the half. They had the ball pinned inside their own 20, and they're sort of caught betwixt and between. Like, do we want to try to throw the ball here, or do we want to just run the clock out? And Seattle wisely, and I was critical of them. I'm like, use the timeout here. They're not in any hurry. You're going to get the ball back. Well, they saved their timeouts. The Patriots ends up throwing some incomplete passes, and then Seattle goes right down the field, kicks a field goal right before the half. It was a 3-point game. I know 3 points in overtime, but they gift them the 3 points by not being totally sure of how they wanted to handle that. So to me, a lot of issues came to roost for the Patriots that we talked about in week one. The margin for error for this team with a roster that is devoid of blue chippers, that is devoid of explosive skill players. Their longest play yesterday, Will, was a tight end screen. Well, their longest pass play was a tight end screen to Hunter Henry. The ball was thrown 4 yards behind the line of scrimmage. They just caught him in the right call. Henry storms down the sidelines, doesn't have to make any moves. Like, that's the extent of their explosives in the passing game. Like, they are so challenged that if it doesn't go right, if they make one little mistake or 2 mistakes, they're just not good enough to overcome it.
Yeah, I think a couple of things stood out kind of rewatching the game yesterday. They ran the ball great, right? 36 times, 5+ yards a carry. They're going to obviously have to lean on that on Thursday night, but it only can get you so far if you're still going to give up passing plays and big plays. Because, like, they're a team that played from ahead at points yesterday. And, again, I think there's talent on this team, but I don't think there's, like, anywhere near enough talent to make up for it, as you mentioned. And then, look, the reason that I think Patriots fans are obviously excited to see Drake May at some point is that, like, you can kind of open up the offense and just in terms of, like, the highs and lows you're going to have to live with. Brissett's very much part of the reason why he's a backup, but also part of the reason why I think team coaches love him. He's got a really, really high floor, and we've seen that through 2 weeks. Not going to make the killer mistakes. He gets the ball out quick, usually over the middle of the field, tight ends, running backs. Once in a while to a receiver, maybe once. But, like, never going to make the mistakes. I think that's obviously with Drake May, you're going to see mistakes. And then obviously the highs. Look, Seattle didn't, the Patriots did a good job, generally speaking, in terms of, 44 attempts, obviously not ideal to give up. Gino was really good yesterday. They got home a couple of times, but I just look at it like they stopped the run against Seattle. That's great. 2.5 yards a pop. That's obviously ideal, right? You want to kind of limit that. But I feel like if you're New England, you feel like that one got away. I picked them to win, on I guess our pod on Friday, because I felt like kind of what unfolded mostly happened. That's the way I thought. They didn't force Seattle into those killer mistakes. And if you're New England, again, I just think, obviously this season, again, all about the coach, all about the quarterback and the young players. But that's one of those, like, learning how to win. They kind of felt like they did that last week. And I just think you're kicking yourself going, man, like, could have started nicely 2-0 here.
Yeah.
Jets game, who knows, right? The Jets open up as a touchdown favorite. I still, we'll talk about later in the week. I think that game favors the Jets in a lot of ways. But if you're New England, like, hey, we could have stolen one, maybe stolen 3 in a row, and now we're 3-0. And when Drake May eventually comes in, we're like playing competitive football games. If you're Seattle, that's like, whew, you got out of there. And if you're New England, you're like, damn, like we had that. I felt like we had it. And, again, it's just disappointing, I think, if you're New England.
I'll give you one more coaching decision that I quibbled with. I wrote about it last night on Boston Sports Journal. So Gerard Mayo, Alex Van Pelt, we're a tough physical team. That's what we're going to be. And obviously you saw 181 yards rushing. That's their mentality. Overtime, 3rd and 1, your first possession of overtime, your only possession of overtime. They decide to go unbalanced. So Hunter Henry is lining up as your left tackle. Your left tackle at this point is Caden Wallace, because Vidarian Lowe, your left tackle who started the game, got hurt in the last offensive play of regulation. Wallace jumps over to the right side to be the muscle tight end on the unbalanced formation alongside the right tackle, Michael Nwenu. If you're going to be a physical team, why? And look, I understand you're not going to run behind Hunter Henry. You've already told Seattle that's not happening, because you don't run behind Hunter Henry. That's not something anybody does. He'll occasionally get run behind just because you can't just run to one side all the time. But so they do this. They get penalized for illegal formation because Wallace doesn't report, because he probably doesn't know that he's supposed to report, because he probably didn't practice this play the entire week. You want to know why he didn't practice the play the entire week? Because Vidarian Lowe was the starter all week, and Chuks Okorafor, who left the team on Saturday and is pondering retirement, he was the backup tackle. He was there all week. And I can't, I'm headed to this. We're taping this Monday morning. I'm headed to the locker room around noon today. Patriots will open it up. I didn't see Caden Wallace after the game. And I want to ask him if he practiced the play, because my guess is he probably didn't. My guess is he barely got any reps, if any at all, at left tackle during the course of the week. So instead of just lining up like you line up and say, we're tougher than you, and we're going to shove the ball down your throat, you tried to get cute. And not only did you get called for the illegal penalty, you still got stuffed on the run, because they said they're not going to the left side. They're coming to the right. Tyrell Dodson shoots the gap, makes a stop. Alex Van Pelt, you don't get to talk to the offensive coordinators after the game. Hopefully we get him at some point this week. I'd like to know what the hell the thinking was there, because that play didn't make a lot of sense to me. You punt the ball away. You never get it back. It's all over.